So as I'm finishing up and we're getting ready to launch my new book, I've been looking at and reading through what I've written. And one of the themes that I noticed that went through from the first book when we talked about leading like a lady and leadership to this new book, this is around sales, is the whole thing around imposter syndrome. And there are a lot of parallels between challenges that people, women I've seen face with leadership, as I've also seen them face with sales. Join me today as I discuss one of the topics that we'll cover in the book, which I call a crisis in confidence and how it's impacting your sales, your life, and your business. I'm Dr. Nadia, founder of the Doyen Agency and creator of Straight Talk About Sales. Tune in. One of the things that I discuss in my new book, coming soon, is what I call a crisis in confidence. And it really touches on things that I see as it relates to women in business, as it relates to sales, even in leadership. So many of us have heard the term imposter syndrome. And in my experience, it tends to show up far more in women than in men. And then when you take that and we now add this component of sales and having sales conversations and really positioning ourselves and promoting ourselves, it can really stir up a lot of emotions, which many times can cause us to actually shrink back, to not ask for the sale, to not charge premium pricing. There's so many layers to how this shows up. And I call it a crisis in confidence because one, our confidence is definitely impacted when we are wrestling with these different emotions. But two, it's really a crisis because it prevents a lot of amazingly brilliant women from putting themselves out there, from really going for it, and from impacting the many lives that they desire to impact. And so today I wanted to talk about this and unpack this a little bit more as we're preparing for the release of my next book. So the first thing I want to talk about is just respect, because I feel like that's a whole nother crisis. That's another YouTube video where we are missing the mark as it relates to being able to really have a mutual respect in sales. I see that missing a lot for a number of reasons. One, I feel that when you have this crisis of confidence and you feel like this imposter is now showing up, there's this lack of respect for you as the salesperson. And while as a salesperson, the conversation is not about you, you clearly are an active participant in this conversation, and how you show up influences the outcome of the conversation. And so I think it's really important to take a moment to evaluate where you are in terms of that whole respect thing, and then go a little bit deeper in what the heck is going on. I spoke with a client recently, and she talked about having sales conversations with what I call the swirling. Like there are all these other thoughts outside of this conversation she's having with this person that's going on in her head. And I was like, tell me more. And she was just like, I'm thinking about, is that the right price? Is that the investment that they can really afford? And then if not, what else am I going to offer? Okay, great. I got that. And then, I'm thinking about, well, how do I track this? Because, I talk a lot about systems, and then how do I track it? And I think that's sometimes challenging for those of us to like pen and paper. I'm one of those folks. Hence the reason why I talk about it so much. But then how do I track this, and where do I put this, and all these different things that are just going through her head. And now she leaves this conversation completely overwhelmed. But here's what I want us to take from that conversation is there's a whole lot going on in her head that have absolutely nothing to do with the person that she's talking to and inviting them to work with her. And so when we look at this respect piece, there's a respect for that person. There's also the respect for you. and doing the things necessary mentally, just physically, like in your physical office, how that needs to look, and your actual systems emotionally, so that you can show up and give that person your undivided attention. One of the things that I have said is one of the biggest gifts that we get to give our prospects is the gift of our presence. Like being present is so rare these days. Like we're always distracted and doing all these different things. And then you add the layer now of your emotions and the thoughts that are going through your head that now impact, influence, and could actually shift the outcome of your actual sales conversations. The second part I actually mentioned a little bit is just, going through the layers. And so similar to leadership, I've said that before, that leadership exposes your insecurities. I say the same is true for sales. Sales and going through that process and preparing to sell and having actual conversations with other humans, it exposes some insecurities. Some stuff starts to come up and it can feel so random sometimes. You're like, what? I haven't thought about that. And what? Right, that. And so being aware, like I think part of even the respect and really dealing with this crisis in confidence is increased self-awareness, not self-awareness from the perspective of now I must be critical of myself, but self-awareness of, okay, I'm aware that this is going on. And now I'm going to take the steps necessary to address this so that it doesn't continue to derail my success. Because that's what happens. Like, if this comes up, these swirly, these things, whatever, it eventually starts to impact your results. And then when you don't get those consistent results, that definitely wears on your confidence and obviously your success. And so we want to take the time to start to dig into those layers, but understand that part of the process is exposing the insecurities. Part of the process is that we need to address some things. I naively, I say this because sometimes I am so unaware, or I'm aware, but I don't necessarily think about it. Like I'm in my own head, right? I do my own stuff. And I've had a couple different trainings. It doesn't happen all the time. So you're thinking about working with us, trust me, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens when we've been in our trainings, whether it's Convert Lab or Tighten Up Your Sales Game or some other trainings that we've done as it relates to sales, and people start to cry. And the first time it happened, it completely caught me off guard for a number of reasons. And at first I was like, I don't even know what to do. And then it was like, Nadia, cut it out, right? Because again, this brings up the stuff and we need to get it out. And so it was just like, giving and providing the space. I think that was the other thing that I took from doing this work, is providing the space to process those emotions when they come up, because they do come up and they manifest themselves in a couple of different ways. But sometimes it's just straight up tears. It's just like, full blown tears and sobbing and pass me the Kleenex. Like, this is what's going on for me and I can no longer hold this in, and it bubbles up to the top. And so understanding, like I've had to learn and understand and process, is that it does bring up emotions, and which is why I talk about emotions so much, because trust me, I know how this impacts your ability to sell. And it's not one of those one and done, right? It's not like I have this one time conversation, I watch this one training, and I never, ever have to deal with my emotions again. Oh my, how I wish that were true. Not true. So it's an iterative process. So you want to have that increased self-awareness. And again, just thinking about, how do I need to address this? What else is going on underneath the surface that I need to handle so that I can show up in my highest version of myself as a place of service for the person that you're working with or you're talking to, in order to invite them to work with you. And then understanding that a lot of times our prospects are also coming to sales conversations with their own stuff. And so then creating the space for that to process. I've had that happen to me too, where people, even in sales conversations, will sometimes cry. Because it's a lot of big emotions, a lot of big things that are coming up for them as they're making this oftentimes a really big decision to step into this big vision that they have for themselves. And it's amazing and it's powerful and it's such an honor. When you think about it, it's such an honor to be there, to hold someone's hand, to walk them through that transformation, to support them in making that decision, and to be able to witness it, to have a front row seat in that process, in that transformation. Like, it is such an honor. And I think when we go into our sales conversations with that attitude, with that, wow, this is an honor. I get to hold space for this person. I get to be here with them. I get to ask them the questions I get to hear what their big vision is, and we get to talk about it. And then I get to be there as they process making this decision, as they make the decision to step into their future and what it is that they say they desire. Wow. Such an honor. And I think shifting how we look at sales and how we look at sales conversations will help us to eradicate this crisis in confidence. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was, as it relates to this, is really just taking the time, I think, like I said, to shift your perspective, but then to also understand your role in the sales conversation. I think sometimes we go into sales conversations and we get our roles all mixed up. It's like, I need to, and it's like, no. It's not your role. I often say your role as the sales leader is to guide the prospect to a buying decision. That could be yes, that could be no. We are looking at this decision, the solution that is best for them. That way, when you show up, you're really showing up from a place of service. You are showing up with questions to ask, stories to share. And as I said, you get to witness the transformation that takes place as people are going through their own process and making these powerful decisions. And I think when we start to really shift those things, and we think about respect and we put that back into sales conversations, when we think about the many layers, and we can make a commitment to just do the continued work on ourselves so that we can show up more powerfully, when we start to shift how we look at sales conversations, and we shift it from I'm going into this conversation because I am going to, strong arm someone or convince somebody to work with me, or even when we just go into it where, I'm just going to go share how I can support someone and invite them to work with me if it's a good fit. But when we take it a step further and we add the honor piece, like respect and honor, how do I really think about how you would show up to a conversation, or all of your sales conversations, if you were like, I get to go into a sales conversation and I get to have a front row seat in someone's transformation. I get the honor and the privilege to do, like, oh man, you're just like, oh yes, I can't wait to do this. And it totally shifts everything. And I think that when we do that, we start to shift the dynamics, the narrative around sales. We start to bring back the honor and really start to highlight the honor that is what we get to do through our businesses in sales conversations when we invite people to work with us. And we also bring in that confidence, and we just get rid of imposter syndrome, because that's a bunch of bleh, all the lies that have been poured upon us for so many years that we've been conditioned to believe. We can really start to shift that, not only for us, for our peers, for those around us, our children, whoever, right? Like, it really just starts to have that ripple effect that I absolutely love how powerful that is when used for good. And it starts to really shift that. And so as you're thinking about sales conversation, I want you to just think about, okay, where am I on that whole respect thing? How I feel about sales conversations? What insecurities are coming up for me as I think about sales conversations and pricing and all the things that comes with having a business? How am I looking at sales conversations? What is my view of sales conversations? And how am I showing up to sales conversations? And as I understand my role in the sales conversation, what does that look like? And how might I need to adjust my thoughts, my attitudes, my feelings, and my beliefs around having sales conversations in order to show up more powerfully and from a place of service. Let me tell you, I'm so excited about this book. It has been years in the making. And while I've had my moments of Nadia, what took you so long? I'm really glad I took my time with this one. So stay tuned. Like I said, release is September 2022. Cannot wait. But I want you to just think about what I've shared and stay connected. So click the link below, connect with us so that you are on the list. So you know, as soon as we release the book, you'll be one of the first people to know so you can grab your copy. So many yummy goodies that we have, and I'm so excited. And if you're like, Dr. Nadia, this is great and I want more, feel free to also check out one of our upcoming Convert Labs. We spent 3 days together, intense, like roll up your sleeves. We intentionally keep the group small so that we can go in and you walk away with customized strategy. We deal with the mindset stuff. Like we just go in because I get it. I understand there are layers. We have room for crying and Kleenex and all of that. But there's also a lot of laughter, a lot of joy, a lot of fun. And you have 3 productive days with me and the team. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And so I would love the opportunity to work with you. So again, click that below, learn more about our upcoming Convert Labs. I would love the opportunity to serve you. This is Dr. Nadia signing off. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.